Good morning. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm up in the studio because I wanted to show you something that one of my many contributors, emailers, contacts, viewers, I suppose is the word I'm looking for, has sent me. And so I've come up into my studio for my morning monologue. Another piece of diatribe that has been wandering around in my head. And I think one of the most important things that we continually need to address and question, which so much of what's going on in the world is focused on, this one premise, which is, in my opinion, completely false, is the fact that global warming is a catastrophe, in the imminent catastrophe that is about to happen, that we're all going to be warmed up and gobbled up if we don't have a massive response to it. And I think personally, this is, as I say, it's just an opinion, but my life experience, we're supposed to have life experiences now, that's supposed to mean something, isn't it? But my life experience when I go out of the door is not that in the nearly 60 years that I've been on this earth, I know I don't look it, thank you very much, is the fact that actually not anything has happened. All these predictions have been wrong. And surely, this is what I don't really understand, is surely the people who are predicting, oh yes, in 12 years' time, we're all going to be swamped in water, we're all going to be dying, and the tide will be coming up from the coast, and the houses will explode, and flames will be all over the place, it's all going to be a nightmare. All of that. Surely when they say these things, they must realise that actually they're going to be found out, that as time progresses towards the end of those 12 years, 10 years, whatever it is, when nothing happens, people will go, oh, I thought you said that I've just moved my house up to the top of the hill and I'm looking down and I could have had that lovely palatial building on the seafront. But no. And hang on, isn't the Maldives, weren't they going to disappear about 30 years ago underwater? Are they not still there? Yes, I think they are, actually. I think the lie, the myth that global warming, that it's man-made and that it's going to be a catastrophe. I mean, okay, let's put the caveat in. Yes, I know the planet is gently warming up, but it has been doing that since the last ice age. That is a natural process. We had a volcano, didn't we have an eruption fairly recently, only the other day? I forget what little island it was on. Massive, great billowing clouds all over the place, putting into the atmosphere more CO2 than man has done in the last, whatever it is, 20 years. And these are natural phenomena. We need the CO2. Anyway, the point of this is why I've come up here is because I wanted to show you this. Here we go. This is from a website that somebody sent me called lifesitenews.com. I don't know how true any of this is. It's just an opinion, of course. But they're reporting that Greta Thunberg deletes a 2018 tweet warning that humans will go extinct if the climate isn't fixed by, look, 2023. Hello? Maybe I'm just broadcasting in the last building standing. Maybe there's actually nobody out there, that I'm all on my own here. I'll go out the door and find that the great deluge of water will come gaping through and cast me away in some horrible and horrific fashion. Maybe that's the case, although actually I am in the real world, and unfortunately life is just going on as normal. Nothing as dramatic as that has actually changed. We're not there climbing in the lifeboats and the rubber dinghies, although of course some people are getting in rubber dinghies from France and coming over to the UK only to get free healthcare and doctors and a nice bit of plush accommodation, and all worryingly of the same sex. So I don't know whether it's a secret cult or something. Maybe it is. Maybe they're just of a certain sexual persuasion and they like being banged up in a hotel. I don't mean literally banged up. Anyway, I'll leave you to interpret that how you like. The main point was, Greta, here she is. This is a younger version of her now. She's a little bit older and perhaps wiser. And it says here that that climate activist Greta Thunberg has clandestinely, I don't know if that's actually what, that's an adjective, isn't it, deleted a tweet from 2018, claimed that mankind would go extinct unless the humans stop using fossil fuels. Well, we're still using those fossil fuels. And here is the tweet. Here it is, apparently. This is it. A top climate scientist is warning that climate change will wipe out all humanity unless we stop using fossil fuels over the next 5 years. How dare you? That's apparently what is going on. And then there's a few little comments and stuff. And then on the same website, here we go, look at this. Now, I don't know when this came out. It doesn't have a date, which is irritating. Maybe it does. Here we go. This is from Tuesday, the 31st of January this year. So this is another report on a similar thing. You can see it says opinion at the top, just so you know. I mean, it's somebody's opinion. It's an opinion that I share, I'd like to point out. Climate scientists baffled as to why Antarctica has not warmed in 70 years, despite the rising CO2 levels. And look, here we have a picture. Not that that proves anything, because I don't know where it comes from. I think it says that there it comes from Shuttlecock or some such place. But it's in the magazine. But it goes on to say that scientists are scrambling to explain. I don't think they are. I think they're keeping very quiet about it, to be honest with you. Why the continent of the Antarctic has shown net zero warming. Yes, for the last 7 decades, and almost certainly much longer. The lack of warming over a significant portion of the Earth undermines the unproven hypothesis that the carbon dioxide humans add to the atmosphere is the main determinant of global warming. So there you go. That's not proof, of course, it's just an opinion. But it does seem that most people, I would think, and I would argue, would be able to say, actually, do you know what? Walking out from wherever you are, in whatever different parts of the world, where is it? We've been warned time and time and time and time and time and time again. So many people, actually, on this desk here, I think I seem to have some sort of, I don't know if this will work. I have no idea because I can't monitor it, but time and time again. Did you get that? I've no idea. I can't hear it. It's a little knob on my desk here in the studio. We've been warned time and time again that this global warming is a thing. But the main part of this is it's fine if that was it. It's just saying, make sure you've got a rubber dinghy in the cupboard and a couple of paddles and a tin of soup. For a tin of pea green soup, of course, if you happen to be out there like the owl and the pussycat, stuck at sea when the ice melts and all the rest of it. And, of course, make sure you've got a fire extinguisher because you'll need one of those when everything catches fire. Now, last year in the UK, we had one day where temperatures went up to 40 degrees centigrade. Oh, my God. And that was pounced on as if that was proof positive that the globe is warming up to a degree it's never been seen before, and everything was going to set fire at 40 degrees? At 40 degrees centigrade? Really? Hang on a minute. 100 degrees centigrade is only boiling point. It's only boiling point where water boils. 100 degrees. 40, it's even half that. Yeah, it's warm for water. Nice and warm. You go for a nice swim in that. Be lovely. Thanks very much. Maybe a bit too hot. Maybe not. You know, depends if you're a frog slowly boiling up. But the point being that people go on holiday to places warmer than that to lie on the beach and sizzle. Don't they? They do that. They go and yet those places are not on fire, naturally. You know, how many places around the world that have that sort of temperature day after day after day are actually on flames all the time, on fire, burning up? No, not very many, in fact. Okay, so you've got places like Australia where the bush does catch fire, although a lot of those are set by troublemakers lighting stuff and being irresponsible, but they do happen, they do occur in nature, and that's part of nature, that's part of resetting, if you like. We have to be careful with that word, don't you? In case you don't add the great word in front of it, because that will suddenly mean, oh yes. But they do that. These bush fires are natural, and it gets rid of all sorts of stuff, and then there's new growth, and that happens. Obviously, if you've built a house nearby the areas that are most likely to set fire, then you have to do something about it. You have to sort of create a barrier, don't you? A sort of fire barrier around your property so it doesn't happen. And I used to know a bloke in Australia who told me that they have a safe box, some sort of box that should a fire happen in the fire season, they can whack. They've got things like their passports and various other bits and pieces of proof who they are, extra money and things like that in this special box that you grab, put in the car, and you drive far away. They also have these viewing posts that this chap that I used to know used to climb up and would watch. You'd spend a few hours there. People used to do it in the hot season and watching in case there was any bushfires and things like that. People are clever. People are clever. So even if this, the world is slightly warming up and over the next 100 years it's going to go up by 1 degree, oh my God, or even 2 degrees, blimey. Let's hope it doesn't go up by the 3 degrees, because otherwise they'll be coming out of their graves singing all sorts of old 1940s songs. But if it's going to go up by 1 degree or 2 degrees over the next 100 years, we are clever people. We can cope with it. We don't need all this knee-jerk rubbish about heading to net zero and having to plant windmills all over the place for times when there is no wind, or to have solar panels distributed all over the ground in which would be good farming land. And we need to get the farmers out there. The CO2, which of course is the gas of life, is brilliant for farmers. It means that there are more crops. We need those crops. We need them now. We don't need the regressive policies that the governments across the world are evilly putting out to try and say, oh yes, you can't have fertilizer, we mustn't have all these crops anymore, we mustn't have animals because they fart. Oh my God, they fart right up into the atmosphere, and that, animals farting are there to cause chaos and mayhem. I mean, it is totally and utterly ridiculous. And yet the people of this earth, I mean, wake up, people, for goodness sake. I mean, it's like, goodness sake, this is not happening. So one of the things that I think we really need to sort of address, because so many of these stupid policies that are being pushed from a tyrannical government and governments around the world, from places like the WEF and the WHO, who are sort of, well, they do seem to be evil think tanks, don't they? I mean, I'm just saying they seem to be, they may not be, these ex-leaders and these billionaires all coming together to sort of play God and tell us how to run things. Really? Really? I mean, they've never done a proper day's work in their lives, have they? They've no idea what it's like to bring up kids themselves. They've got nannies and other people to do it. They don't seem to have any personal bones in their body, real. I mean, they, if they want to turn into some technocratic robot and walk around this earth doing their thing on their little private islands and sending their little jets all over the place, it's entirely up to them. I have no problem with that. Do that in your own time, in your own space, but leave the rest of us who have got a life, thank you very much, who like to walk out into the countryside, love to see cows and pigs and sheep and all of that, love to eat them as well, thank you, when they're, I would like to see the industries a little less industrial and less of the chemicals put into animals and things. I'd like to see animal welfare obviously improve. I'm sure most people would like that. Probably the farmers would like to see that themselves. And I would like to see farmers not having to rely on subsidies, that they could go back to small farming and things. I know people would disagree with me on that, but that's fine. We can have a debate about all of that. That's fine. But where I don't think we need to do is to unnecessarily burden farmers and people and technology with these pointless targets to get to something like net zero, where you're trying to get rid of the very gas that is the gas of life that produces flowers growing and plants that the animals need, that we then can get the nutrients from those plants out of the soil, as well as the animals that we eat, because we are, on the whole, we are carnivores. We don't need to. We've got to burst the myth, this stupid myth that the elites are desperately trying to convince us, because they want us to go into this bug-eating scenario and these stupid little ghettos of 15-minute cities and all of this. We need to take back the responsibility, show them that we're not going to have any of this nonsense, that this policy is rubbish. It's just not worth pursuing. It is a load of old nonsense. It's a false ideology, and it's not going to be of any benefit to the human race. But if they want to do it, that's fine. For one thing, wouldn't it be great if they were role models of this? If they wanted to live in 15-minute cities, why don't they show us how it's done? Let them all live in a 15-minute city. If they want to push this on us, then why don't they have a digital ID and we look in and see exactly what they're doing and make out and look at their carbon credits? If they want to stop us from travelling about and having cars and flying and all that, why don't they, as role models, instead of poncing about flying all over the place, get rid of their private jets and stay in these 15-minute cities and get rid of their cars and not travel anywhere at all? They, you know, if they actually if they actually did what they preach, we would have a lot more respect for them. But they don't. They don't. They purposely flout everything that they actually believe in, or say they believe in, and expect us to do the same. Well, I think until and unless they do it first, we shouldn't. So when Greta, clearly now exposing herself as a bit of a fraud there by saying, oh, well, I believe that in 2018 and I'm going to delete this tweet now because actually it makes me look a fool. Well, it does make you look a fool, love. I'm sorry to say, it does make you look a fool. And I can understand because she was younger then and we all make mistakes, and so I'm happy to reach out with an olive branch if she was to turn around and say, do you know what? I know I've made a lot of money out of this. I know, there's a lot of money to be made out of climate change alarmism, and I'm alarming everybody. I know I've done that, but to be honest with you, I can start to now see the error of my ways, and if people would be able to sort of take me back on board and say, look, I'm still Joan of Arc, but I will do the opposite and say, actually, I was wrong, and there's no such thing as climate change. I realised that was a complete and utter cock-up. I was influenced by all the wrong people. I don't agree with any of it. Yes, I want to save the planet in terms of pollution and make life a little bit easier for everybody and have a much more cohesive and wholesome and spiritual life. Wouldn't that be lovely? And that we get rid of the litter and the pain and the nastiness. That would be great. For one thing, we could get rid of all those people at Davos who've actually baffled my brains. That would be a good starting point. Now, if she was to do that, I would be full on board with it. It would be lovely. We'd all recognise and say, everybody makes a mistake. Everybody does something wrong, and once they say, I've made a mistake, we should all be able to say, it's not a problem. It's not a problem. You're human, like the rest of us. Join us and be a true member of real society. That I think everybody would have no problem with that. But to sort of dig your heels in and to hide under the carpet and say, well, I didn't do anything, I never put that tweet out, would be stupid, because we can see it. And the truth, the truth will come out. You don't have to keep looking behind you. You don't have to keep covering your back when you're dealing with the truth. The truth is the truth. It's open. It's honest. It's there. You can see it. You don't have to hide it and be in fear. You just deal with it. Anyway, there we go. That's my monologue today. Thank you very much for joining me, and I will no doubt be back downstairs on the little chair, coming out and pontificating about life, the universe, and everything. And, of course, join me again when I've got some more of my wonderful interviews, which I do have lined up for the next 2 weeks. So there's all of that. And thank you for all your emails and messages and everything else. I'm sorry if I can't always get to answer the emails. I've got something like 625 to look at today. So you can imagine that's rather a lot. So and people just send lots of links and things with no explanation. And it would be really great if people could, if they are sending me a link to something, just put some explanation, so at least I've got a vague idea what it's about. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you tomorrow.